Hello, I'm Mark Lee from Lifeline Security. Thank you for joining us in our first of our programs on security matters. Today I'm joined by Dale Howarth from Jigsaw Sales and Marketing, who is going to be discussing with us the history of Lifeline.
I think when you look at Lifeline, Mark, it's interesting to look back from when the company was first founded back in 1990. You know, every business starts with some idea, some opportunity. You don't just suddenly wake up one morning and think, hey, let's start a new business. So what was it back in 1990 that really got the business moving?
Well, as you know, Dale, we're a family-based business, and the business was originally established by my father, Graham Lee, and mother, Jean. Dad was involved in a manufacturing company which was producing fire automation systems for primarily the motor racing industry. Obviously, we were based here on the island, and Dad looked at the opportunity to certainly to put a footprint here on the island, to establish a business here on the island that would naturally flow from the one he already had. And a company called Island Alarm Systems came up for sale, which was back in 1990, and Dad thought it'd be a really worthwhile investment.
And obviously starting off then it was your mum, dad, you. Who else was involved back then when it first started?
Well, actually when it first started, it was my mum and dad, a couple of engineers that weren't part of the family, and also my nan as well. So my nan was there involved in bookkeeping. Mum and dad were very much running the operations with a couple of engineers that we had that we took on from Island Alarm Systems. My brother and I, Nathan, we took a back seat at the time and joined the business a little later.
Right. And of course, so you're going back to your nan, your mum and dad, and then there's you and Nathan, brothers. Now, of course, I know you've got your girls very much involved, Savannah and Chanel. Nathan's got his daughter, I think on the latest video.
Yeah.
So we're talking, what, 4 or 5 generations coming through the business?
It's one of the unique selling points I think we've got as a business is that the generational aspect of it, because it's really, really important that we have ethics, and we have as a family. We've always been proud of the ethics that we've had, and that's been passed down from generation to generation. You know, my nan, obviously through my mum and dad together, they saw how they wanted to run a business, how they wanted to deliver a service. That's obviously been instilled in Nathan and I, and the same has obviously fed on to my daughters and to Nathan's daughter as well. As young as she is, but as you say, she's been involved in one of our latest YouTube videos. So the generational aspect has been really a success. Yeah.
And of course, based in Newport, always based in Newport?
Yes, the company's always been based in Newport. Originally, as with everything, small beginnings, very small offices, cold offices, huddled around a Calagas heater. There was mum and dad and nan. They used to sit there and man the telephones in something like a 12 by 12 office, and that's where they originally started. Moved once from Daesh Way, where we had a rented office, to the facilities that we've now got on Riverway.
And of course, big relaunch last year, opening up those facilities for everyone to see it. Yes. Because from the outside, it looks like any other brick type, office building, but inside very much different. I know it was so well attended, and a brilliant event with the putting outside, the hog roast, which went down
very well.
So partners very, very important with the business. Obviously, at the opening, we saw people like Smoke Cloak, but many others that you're working with as well. Yeah,
it's one of the key strengths of the business is to form supply chain partners rather than just manufacturers and suppliers. We try to build, very, very good relationships with our manufacturers and suppliers. The key ones, certainly Honeywell Security, one of the biggest manufacturers in the world of security products, and we are Honeywell partners. Apollo fire detectors, yes, they're based in Hampshire, but again, we are Apollo partners. We try to form those partnerships with all the organisations that are key to our organisation. CSL Communications or another, Vicon CCTV. All of these guys work really closely with us. It means we've got access to them, they've got access to us, we give them vital information back. We can talk to them, we get manufacturing backup, they'll give technical support to us, and we can work literally hand in hand as partners.
And looking at that aspect and looking at the office, of course, it's easy for people to see you as very much a very successful island business, and you are very much that. But it's not just about the island. You're not totally island-centric. Your work does move away from that as well, doesn't it?
Yes, this 2014 has seen us take on some good projects, certainly on the south coast and the south of England. We've been involved in several schools, leisure centres. We also recently completed installations in a major new college facility, which was Eton College sponsored. And they will enjoy things such as CCTV, intruder alarms, fire alarms, access control, which is based on biometric, which is fingerprint scan. So it's really now cutting edge technology that we're able to offer throughout the south of the UK, but especially having cut our teeth on that and learned and gained great experience from that, we can bring that acumen now back to the island and deliver that locally as well.
And of course the qualities in the business are not simply reflected in the facilities you have at the offices in Newport, the team, the accreditations you hold, obviously the work you do closely with your partners like Honeywell and so on, but also in awards and real accreditation. I mean, Lifeline's the only NACOS Gold accredited company here on the island, which is quite significant in itself. But there's a number of others as well, isn't there?
Yeah, certainly. That was key, a key moment in our history. It was actually Mum that identified the fact that we really need to gain accreditation in order to establish the credentials of the company, to give it some good quality acumen, that people were able to look at it and identify that this was an organisation that was going to provide quality. In addition to that, obviously the company has then grown in strength and strength. We've added 9001 Quality Assurance to that. In 2011, we were winners of the Small Business Award here locally on the Isle of Wight, the Chamber of Commerce event. 2012, we were nominated as finalists for the National Security Excellence Awards, Small to Medium Installer of the Year, and we were honoured to be the winners that year. In 2013, we were finalists again and runners-up. And then this year, 2014, again, finalists and runners-up. So hopefully 2015 will bring some new results.
So some great accreditations, great awards, you know, backing up all that quality within the business. And of course, you know, the name Lifeline is synonymous on the island with alarms and security. But of course, it's much more than that to many people, you know. So what about the scope and the range of products and services that are being offered?
We've often been referred to as an emergency service. I was actually just dealing with a customer just the other day, and she had called us in the morning. We went to see her in the afternoon, and the following day we were actually installing a system for her. And she said that, you know, you are literally an emergency service for me. It's been fantastic. I'm able to go away now with peace of mind and feel completely comfortable. So we certainly want to build relationships with people. People identify who we are, they know the name, they know the brand, but what's really important to us is building relationships, making friends of people and customers so that people know who the individuals are behind the organisation.
Yeah, and of course that's both private clients, you know, people at home looking to protect their own property, and commercial clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, some of those, certainly on the island, are well known to many.
Yeah, people such as, obviously, one of our major ferry operators, Red Funnel, UK Sailing Academy we look after, and the Royal Yacht Squadron, all based in Cowes. Then we have people such as Liz Earle, who are a multi-award-winning international organisation. Then we have people like, old names like Pascal Atkins in Cowes, that have been around for years, that we look after there as a smaller organisation. Then we look after AJ Wells, another family-based business, Beta Pack, Oasis. These are all good quality family-based businesses that have grown alongside us as well, actually. You know, often when I meet with Steve Porter from Steve Porter Transport, we always compare notes as to where we were maybe 20, 25 years ago, what we were doing, and how we've seen both our organisations grow at the same time. Yeah,
and what's been good, I think, is certainly, you know, the work I've done with you is how many of those clients go back to the really early days of Lifeline. You know, yes, there's lots of new names in there, but there's so many that literally were there from the start. I know when there was the opening last year, there were a number of clients there that had literally been with you now for, you know, 14, best part of 15 years. And there's not too many companies that can probably hold that one up. And of course, as you go around the island, what's great is you see the Lifeline alarm boxes everywhere. You can't miss what are now the chrome alarm boxes. And yes, they're a deterrent, but also they're a great promotional medium for the company. You know, when you get tuned into them, you can't help but see them all over the place.
We're a very fortunate industry. We get to advertise our product on the front of everybody else's property. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay them for the privilege.
Not at all,
either.
not
It's
at all.
the other way around.
Yeah, maybe don't turn people on to that. You know, if you're listening and watching this, then please don't take up on Dale's comment there.
Yeah, and there are people out there. We were jesting about it, but it's fact that you know, a bit like Eddie Stobart trucks. There are people out there that go around collecting Lifeline alarm boxes and looking at all the premises that are on. And I know you ran a competition in the county press only a short time ago that really played on that, where people had to identify. I think a really good response from that as well.
We've got a terrific
really
response.
Embraced it. Yep.
Yes. And the winners as well are, they're actually moving down from up country and actually joining us here on the island. It's part of the way of life they wanted. And when I went over to meet them, I said, you know, how do you know so much about it? You know, how did you? Well, we were considering getting an alarm, and we've seen your bell boxes everywhere, the external sounders. So we thought, yeah, we recognise these locations, we recognise it. We did a bit of research. We thought, yeah, well, let's enter the competition, and that really worked well for them.
Yeah. And of course, that's the alarm boxes, so that's part of the security side of things. But that's not all that Lifeline is. I mean, you've got, you know, the alarm side of things. You've got the fire side, and then there's other aspects as well. CCTV's one.
I think we can probably describe our portfolio as electronic fire and security systems. So with that, there'll be an element, obviously, of CCTV, which is a very, very big growing market now. The people are very concerned, certainly domestically. People want to have CCTV on their own properties. The fire side of things, again, one of the visions of the company was to make ourselves stand out from everybody else, what the differentiator was. And the differentiator for us on this now is we are the only island-based organisation that has what's called BAFE accreditation for the design, installation and commissioning of fire alarm systems. And that means that we go through a whole due diligence process from the initial inquiry, the design, the risk assessment, the installation, the commissioning. All the records are there for audit at any time, so the customer can have complete confidence that when they're having a system from ourselves, then it's going to tick all the boxes. Their health and safety, their insurance company, and anyone else that may question it is going to cover all the boxes.
And I think it's that depth and breadth that sets the company aside again from others. You know, you can go to a single source supply that can do everything from your alarm systems, detectors, CCTV, door entry systems, all of the fire prevention systems that you want behind that. And again, to know it's monitored locally by a team that, you know, understand the island, because that's important at a local perspective. You know, it's fine for companies from, let's say, the mainland or North Island, as we often refer to it, come over, but they don't know the geography of the island. You know, on the island, you know, I'm certainly a good example of it. Many others are. You know, we work by landmarks. We don't work by street names. So if you don't know the locale, you find it very difficult. And of course, in a service such as that which you provide, you know, that can mean the difference between a very effective speed of response and a relatively slow speed of response, which, if there is an intruder or some other issue in a property, you know, can mean a real difference to the homeowner or the commercial property owner.
It is. You're correct in the fact that it is the depth of the organisation. It's the commitment that we've made to making sure that we've got the resources available so that people can tap into them day or night. And it is literally 365 days a year. So if somebody is sitting down on Christmas Day and there is a problem with the alarm, then there's an engineer on call. If it's New Year's Day, there's an engineer on call. If it happens to be Easter, bank holiday weekend, there's engineers available. So that is one of the key differentiators that we find is the making sure that we've got those resources available for people to draw on, because unfortunately alarms, being by their very nature, tend to go off at the most inconvenient times, so that we need to make sure that we are there.
Yeah, and it's the nuisance factor. Again, if a neighbour's alarm going off and it's unattended, or again in the high street, if an alarm's going off, it disrupts the people around them. And of course, because it's fully monitored, because it's highly accredited through Lifeline, you get a much more effective response from emergency services when they're needed.
Yeah, absolutely. For many people, we're fortunate in this country, we're one of the few countries in Europe that still have police response to alarm systems. Many European countries aspire to what we're still able to provide in this country. But in order to do that, then obviously the installer, the provider, the designer of the alarm system has to be of a certain accredited criteria, in order to make sure that we're not wasting police resources, we're not designing it incorrectly, using poor quality components, or being negligent in any other way. So the very fact that the alarm systems should be activating now, with the increase in technology, increase in reliability, improved design, it means that the actual systems themselves are going to operate more often than not in anger rather than the nuisance value that it used to be years ago.
Yeah, and of course important for people that are resident on the island, but of course on the island we benefit from a lot of people who have second, even third homes here, people that just come over during holiday and other times, and of course it's comforting for them to know that their property is being, you know, well looked after, and of course you're key holding for clients as well, so you're able to give that quality of response and maintain and service systems without necessarily them having to be present.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in when the second and third homeowners have properties here. Yes, they are bringing an element of business to the island. It's not just a property that sits there doing nothing, because there are other people obviously involved. There's cleaners involved, there's ourselves, and other people that maintain the property. So there is an income coming from those homeowners. But it is again a confidence issue, so that people can retire back to their main homes or main points of residence and feel completely sure and comfortable that if anything should happen to their property while they're away, then they've got access to our resources. Yeah.
And of course you're providing a lot of service, so you know what we've talked about is depth and breadth, you know, really good scope in terms of the island south coast, 24/7, 365 operation. That takes a fair bit of resource behind it. So what's the size of the team now at Lifeline, and what are some of the roles that they're all performing within that?
We're very fortunate. We've got a really, really great team. Team of about a dozen engineers, all of which are island-based. And these are really, really highly skilled, highly trained engineers. They are, the good thing about most of them as well is they're multidisciplined. And that so many organisations we've come up against before, especially providers where we're providing multidisciplines, you get a guy that'll turn up and say, oh, I can only do this element of it. I need to send another guy back now to do that element of it. And whilst we've got engineers that will specialise in each of their fields, in the majority they are all multidisciplined engineers, so they should be able to address any issue that they face. So that's a good team. A highly dedicated team, really pleased with them. We've got engineers that have been with us over 20 years, some others that have been with us 15 years, others 10 plus. Average length of service throughout the organisation is approximately 9 years, so that's a real good plus. It must be a nice place to work, apparently.
Yes, and of course fleet of vehicles out there. How many vehicles now supporting all those
Again,
clients?
should be one for each engineer, so approximately a dozen vehicles. All.
But of course vehicles, people often think, you know, environment, but you're very environmentally friendly at Lifeline. It's quite a key policy for you, isn't it?
It's a key policy for us. Just this year we were accredited with EN 14001, which is our environmental accreditation. So we've got a quality system in place for all our environmental impact. Cindy, my PA, champions that, and she's supported by Chanel. And they look at key aspects of how we dispose of unwanted product, especially in the electronic side, how we produce documentation. Is it really necessary to print every document? We're trying to email most of our correspondence as much as possible. They will also look at things like the vehicles. As we said, we try and get high quality vehicles. They're replaced on a 2-year cycle, so we're not getting into third year increased emissions perhaps. We also look at things like ladder racks. You know, do we need to put ladder racks on every single vehicle, or maybe just a select few? That increases fuel economy terrifically. I think when we first did that, we saw a difference of about 8% in fuel economy just across the fleet by removing ladder racks. So these are little things. We're very conscious of that, especially where we live on the island. Yeah, the engineers are flying from point A to point B, and again, when they're carrying out their planned maintenance, we try and postcode allocate everything, so it's all batched by postcode. We can get the engineers in there to limit the amount of time they actually
work in an
out.
area rather than just travelling all over the island.
Totally. Yes, we get emergencies, and sometimes you need to deploy a guy from here to here. That's the nature of emergencies, but we try and do it in the most efficient way
it's
possible.
more than lip service. You know, a lot of businesses pay lip service to the environment, but actually it's real with
It's
Lifeline.
real to us,
and it's across
much.
the business as well. It's not just in one area like vehicles. It's throughout the whole administrative operation
absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
Which is good.
And then moving on to the operations team, got a fantastic operations team. And again, we encourage people to come in and talk to them, and come and meet them, put faces to names. You know, there's Cindy, my PA, who I mentioned before. There's Savannah and Chanel. They're my 2 daughters. Chanel is our CAD operator, so she's constantly producing electronic drawings for completed installations. Savannah is working in our customer support team.
And of course, Savannah's an award winner in herself, isn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she went through HTP training, and she was winner of her sector and also overall apprentice winner of the year.
Yeah.
So she was very proud of that.
Quite an
Brilliant.
accolade.
Yeah, we were very pleased with that. Then we've got Remy that joined us recently. We have Anne. We've got Becky, and those girls are so knowledgeable. You know, we've often had times when people have rung in asking questions, and the frontline team will just be able to answer the questions, and they feel, oh, well, I've really been treated nicely. I've been addressed and serviced by a very, very knowledgeable individual.
Yeah, I think it's also the softer side of the business. You know, it can be perceived security as a male-orientated, macho type thing, but certainly not the case. You know, there's an immense amount of customer care. So, you know, people are phoning often at stressful times if something's gone wrong, and it's nice to get that slightly softer side for the business and someone that they may well have known for some time through, you know, their work with Lifeline, which is quite nice as well. Obviously, you know, we live on an island. It's a great place to be. I've seen research that said the island is the second safest place to live in the country after Westminster. And the only reason Westminster's first is because the Palace of Westminster and there's so much security there. But, you know, and I think some of that's no doubt down to Lifeline, you know, with the presence that you've got over here and the fact that we are an island and we're very much an island community, which is great. But of course, you know, there is crime out there. And I know you've got some quite interesting statistics on what people may or may not expect. And
yeah, it's just going back to your point on living on the island, it's where we all choose to live. It's where I brought my family up. It's where I wouldn't choose to live anywhere else. It's beautiful. It's a fantastic environment. What I would say is we know who our neighbours are today, but we don't necessarily know who they're going to be tomorrow. So it is an ever-shifting sand, and we have seen things change. You know, we've seen the island now having to cope with social ills that it never had to cope with 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So as a deterrent, yes, certainly security is a major part. I mean, otherwise, you know, we wouldn't exist. And it's a basic human need. We all like to feel safe and secure in our own properties. So that's a fundamental need of us as individuals. So by investing in that, you know, just as an example, if you've got two properties, property A and property B, this one is protected with security and this one isn't. Which one is vulnerable? And it's a very, very basic equation. Things that we've noticed previously, Home Office stats used to say that if you've been broken into once or had an intrusion in your property once, the likelihood of your being broken into again increases dramatically. Now, that could be for a number of reasons. It could be that the intruder feels comfortable there. He now knows what's in the property. It could be that he's identified things on the first reconnaissance mission that he didn't get on the first attempt. It could also be the fact that maybe within a few weeks, the original losses have now been replaced by the insurance company with nice new ones. And he comes back and says, I'll take the HD version now. Yeah. So that's another option. And people buy, as you've often said, people buy for various different reasons. A lot of us have replaceable items. You know, a TV can be easily replaced, but things like personal photos, which many of us keep on our computers.
If it's stolen that may have your photos on it.
Yeah, that's irreplaceable. The very fact that someone has even been into your property uninvited is difficult for most people. And just before we started this interview, actually, I was looking at a statistic that 87% of people that have suffered an intrusion feel that they've been emotionally scarred by it to one degree or another. So it is quite a demand on.
And of course, theft. It's not just and security is not just about inside the property; it's outside. You know, it's garden theft.
Yes,
I mean, I saw myself recently a program on television where thieves were going into gardens and digging up plants because if you go to a garden centre, you know, a small shrub can cost you 10 or 15 pounds, and people have fully grown versions in their gardens. So again, thieves were going into the gardens and using mobile phones because the technology is so available now to literally film what was in a garden and then almost generating shopping lists that people could. Buy against, and they go back and start digging up people's gardens. Garden ornaments, again, is another one.
There was a group actually in London, and again, I know it's not here on the island, but it happens, and it's just really a question of geography and where it scales out from. But there was a group in London that were actually going around in a van that was racked out with tubes from one end to the other, and they were taking down people's hanging baskets in the middle of the night. They were then filling up the van, taking it to a car boot the following day and selling these things. And they think they were returning over £1,000 per car boot event. And it may be very petty as we think, but it's often taken from front gardens.
It is, and I think it's the disruption to the individual. It's not just the disruption in terms of, someone's stolen your basket, you've got to buy another one, but it's the fact that someone's been there, someone's intruded in your space, and it may be a hanging basket today, but what will it be tomorrow? And of course, with so many things nowadays as well, the costs have come down. Putting an alarm system in, securing your property, certain things you can just do yourself. But outside of that, putting a professional system in doesn't have to have a high cost attached to it.
The police used to refer to it as hardening the target, and it literally is doing what you possibly can as an individual to try and make your property less attractive to somebody that is undesirable.
And I know, this programme, Security Matters, is part of a series, and this is the first one really just looking at Lifeline, but other programmes in the series are going to look at things like garden theft and how you can secure outbuildings and garden ornaments and so on. Also looking towards technology, because technology is so prevalent nowadays. I know recently, without really getting too much into that programme, but you were at Honeywell recently because, of course, due to your close relationship with Honeywell, they very much embrace what you're doing, value opinion. So you're up there looking at some new technologies that they were bringing out. If you just want to touch on that maybe for a second, just to sign off.
Yeah.
And then obviously that's subject maybe
just
for the next program.
Just a few days ago, we were in Westminster with Honeywell, and they were releasing a product which is going to be primarily cloud-based. So that is the new technology that's coming along now. Same as with everything, it's all moving very, very fast. You and I are probably just about hanging on to email and text, whereas we have our younger compatriots now that will help us to Twitter and Facebook and so forth. Now the new generation of intruder systems are starting to come along with smart plugs, smartphone application. It means people can be emailed, they can view their properties online from a cloud. So that's going to be a very, very interesting and exciting development for the following years. Thank you, Dale, for joining us and talking about Lifeline today. So that's the first in our series of Security Matters. In our next programme, we'll have Jonathan Thornton from PC Consultants discussing with us how technology will affect the future of security. Thanks for joining us.